Cathaoirleach, Deputy Senators, on behalf of the National Youth Council of Ireland, I'd like to thank you for the invitation today to discuss the establishment of the Electoral Commission. We addressed a number of issues in our submission, but given the time constraints, I'd like to focus primarily on our priority areas, namely the role of an Electoral Commission in managing voter registration and promoting turnout, especially amongst young people. NYCI has and will continue to promote active citizenship amongst young people and to empower our peers to participate in our democracy, and many of our member organisations have done this consistently over time in terms of organising campaigns to encourage and support young people to have their voices heard and to turn out in elections and referendums. I think we particularly welcome the fact that voter turnout among young people between the ages of 18 and 25 has increased significantly since 2002. In 2002, voter turnout amongst this cohort was around 50%. In 2011, that was 62%. And given the obstacles that young people face in terms of registration and also returning home to vote from places of learning, it's only 8% lower than the general participation rate of all age groups. So when you consider that, actually young people are engaged in politics, and I think that is something that is lost sight of sometimes in terms of the conversation around young people. I think similarly, I guess we warmly welcome the participation of young people in the recent marriage referendum. I think one of the many positives out of the referendum was the engagement of young people in both the discussions and the campaigns beforehand, but also on the day as well itself. And if you look at the supplementary register and how many young people registered and how many of the supplementary register actually turned out on the day, I think it's certainly the case that young people do want to take part. And we'd like to particularly pay tribute to Laura Harmon, who's now former president of USI, for her efforts and USI's efforts in getting out that vote during the campaign. We support the establishment of an electoral commission. As outlined in our submission, we believe many aspects of the electoral system currently function well, and most importantly, they have the confidence and they have the trust of the people. But we're very concerned about the voter registration process, the current system. We're of the view that it's not fit for purpose, it's under-resourced, it's inconsistent, it's inaccurate, and reforming the process will be, in our view, an urgent priority for the new body. It was designed at a time when the vast majority of people were born, raised and lived all their lives in the one area, and that doesn't speak to the current population of young people who are highly mobile. Our analysis would suggest that the means by which the register is currently compiled is leading to the exclusion of greater numbers of young people. In the autumn of last year, we conducted a poll through the Red Sea relating to electoral matters and particularly voter registration. And the poll found that 30% of young people aged 18 to 25 were not registered at that time, double the rate recorded when a similar poll was conducted in 1999, which was around 14%. So, from our perspective, democracy is diminished and undermined when so many young citizens are excluded. As referenced in the Oireachtas Library and Research Services document provided to the committee, evidence from the US suggests that eliminating registration barriers can raise voter participation rates by between 7 and 10%. It also suggests that barriers in relation to young people when they're moving around, it decreases their participation rate by 17%. So it's a huge issue for young people, and the current annual cycle whereby the register is revised on an annual basis and closed on an annual basis requires those seeking to be added to the register during this period to have to go to a very cumbersome process to be added to the supplementary process. The establishment of an electoral commission would also facilitate the development of a centralised system for online voter registration. While it is possible to check currently whether or not you are on the register, many young people cannot understand why it is not possible to register online. This would not only assist those seeking to register for the first time, but it would also assist those voters who wish to change their address to which their vote is registered. And an online process would reduce the administrative burden on the Electoral Commission and on local authorities, we believe. The establishment of an electoral commission will not solve all these problems unless it's properly resourced. We note from the department's consultation document that just over €4.8 million was allocated to local authorities to maintain the electoral register in 2014. We got in touch with the Electoral Commission in New Zealand to find out how much they invest in their voter registration system. As they have a similar number of electors, they have 3.3, we have 3.1. Sorry, the other way around. We have 3.3, they have 3.1. Their annual spend on the electoral register is 20.5 million New Zealand dollars, or the equivalent of 12.5 million, so 2.5 times basically what we spend on maintaining our electoral register. If we want an accurate and complete and user-friendly voter registration system, we need to invest in it by employing strategies that are innovative in order to maintain it. We also believe that the Electoral Commission has the potential to play a leading role in the research on voter registration and voter mobilisation. Based on our experience to date, we're of the view that the Electoral Commission should be empowered to fund campaigns by non-partisan and non-governmental bodies that are solely concerned with promoting voter participation. And while any reform of the electoral system should, as we outlined in our submission, be progressed in a careful and considered fashion, we ultimately need action. An electoral commission was first promised in 2007, and as stated by the government, will not be in place for the upcoming general election. We would like to see a commitment that the electoral commission will be established by 2017, and that such a body is given the powers and resources and time to be able to oversee the next local and European elections in 2019. Thanks again for having us today, and we look forward to the discussion.
Thank you.